This is something you might not believe me with, but I've talked about this a lot. It's a consistent pattern that I see around the country, any state that we go to, is where you have, and this is point number one, we'll jump right into it, is where you have good summer buck herds, you do not have good fall buck herds. And that happens over and over again. I was with clients just in the last, I had 8 clients, 9 days, normal trip per month from December to September. And it's December 22nd, so I came home on the 21st and get some time off for Christmas now. And again, it was, we have great bucks during the summer, where do they go? Well, typically they're about a mile, mile and a half apart, it seems, on average. And in big timber and big woods, it might even be further. But in a lot of times there's been some assumption that maybe they go back to their fawning grounds, because yearling bucks disperse an average of about a mile and a half. So when they have their first set of antlers, and sometimes even fawn bucks, so fawns or yearlings, year and a half old or 6 month, they'll disperse. Mother kicks them out of the herd. They don't disperse. A lot of times as a fawn in northern regions where they need to learn the way to the deer yards. It's just nature's way of protecting them when they're young. Learning that route, learning those routes, so they're with the mother. Mother kicks them out, they're gone, they disperse about a mile and a half. And it's interesting, a lot of buck movements have barbells where they are about a mile and a half apart. So going back to, if you're seeing those bucks in the summertime, a lot of times you're not seeing them in the fall. On the flip side, you could not see bucks during the summer, and you don't get them in the fall because you don't have good fall food and cover. If you have good fall food and cover though, and you have a lot of bucks during the summer and you have a lot of does, a lot of times the number of does determines you're not gonna have a lot of bucks during the fall. They just take up too much space. More does come in, especially if you have good fall food and cover. That's that doe factory problem we call it. It's very, very real. I work with clients all the time that we have excessive doe numbers, not enough bucks, because they have a big bubble of does and fawns in their land, and that basically keeps mature bucks out. They come during the rut a little bit, but even then, you're just getting a fraction of the number of bucks that you would otherwise get if you had more of a balanced herd. Balance starts from summer food, summer forage. And so it's a bad thing if you have a lot of bucks during the summer problem. Well, let's try to solve this before summer. We're making this December 22nd. I want to get on the jump and help get you guys thinking of what can we do different this year to the land to have a better hunt and herd. You can't have one without the other. So when it comes into summer food, it's a big no-no. Why are those bucks there? Bucks, and I talk about this in a little bit, bucks travel a long ways to go find the best food in the area. You can imagine in the fall, there's not a lot of great food sources around, so they'll travel a long ways. During the summer, they can be scattered here and there, not a big deal. But if you have a lot of summer food on your land or where you hunt, then that means that summer food, unless it totally converts to fall food, you have summer food at the expense of fall food. Deer, even health-wise, need fall food, not summer food. There's 5 times more in most of the north half of the country food during the summertime than deer actually need to consume. A lot of people think, well, I need to have that clover plot so I improve their antlers. You're not doing anything. You can't improve the health of the herd in most locations in the north half of the country during the summer months. You're really not going to. Don't fool yourself or pat yourself in the back. The problem is when you have great summer food, you do that at the expense a lot of times of the fall food that you should have. Deer need that food before they go into the winter time. That's a time of leniency, even if it was 10% better during the summertime. A lot of times the local habitat is a 0, a 2, a 3, a 4. Even with really good browse, it'd be a 4 out of 10, where you can have that food source in November, December, January. That's an 8 or a 10 out of 10 compared to the habitat. That difference in quality from what the local habitat has to offer at the time to what you can offer is where the greatest increase in quality comes from as far as attraction and holding, creating a herd. So during the summertime, you're offering a 10 out of 10 food when the local habitat's a 9, so what? But when you're offering a 9 out of 10 food when the local habitat's a 3, that difference of 6 is huge during fall and winter, and that's where you truly make a difference. And if you have that summer food, you attract summer fawning grounds for mature does. They're there every year. It's a very competitive local habitat issue. And then if you have high quality stem count fall cover, which we'll talk about, you have that fall food, then those does just stay. Does that are here today are here to stay. So for many reasons, when it comes to summer food and it comes to summer bucks being on land where there's summer food, they're not going to be there during the fall. Summer cover. Bucks need big open, overstory, shade, and good airflow. They can't crash their velvet through high stem count, briar-choked, shrub-filled, grassy hardwood regeneration that they prefer in the fall and wintertime, that they need in the wintertime. They need that browse. See, what deer are eating during the wintertime is woody browse. In fall, they're eating woody browse once everything dies. That's why you can do controlled burns in the north half of the country. And you can burn that understory and produce green vegetation during the summertime, but they already have a plethora of green vegetation during the summertime. If you don't have the green vegetation during the fall and winter, those deer aren't going to be on your property. You didn't add any weight to them. You didn't improve their health anyways by having that summer green. So you need to have that hardwood regeneration. You don't do that with a torch. You have to have that hardwood regeneration, the woody shrub tips, the briars. That's where bucks prefer to be during the fall and where they avoid during the summer. So again, if you're seeing those bucks during the summer, it's because you have poor cover as it relates to fall and winter, and great cover, cool overstory, shade, space, areas where they're not crushing their velvet into during the summertime. Do you see this just completely different there? Summer food exacerbates the problem of too many does. They stick around during the hunting season. They form a bubble, keeps mature bucks off during the daylight. And at the same time, that cover is so different. We get down to number 4. This is what's really critical to understand, is that when you have those bucks on your land, they're typically going to be, on average, a mile, mile and a half away during the fall. And during the fall, they're willing to travel a long ways, mile, 2 miles, to find that fall food. You wonder where those bucks are, and they're not nocturnal. They're just 2 miles away. They're showing up in the middle of the night occasionally because they come back home for a little bit. That's part of their territory. They come back, look around for does. They might even stick around. But they're focusing somewhere else, and they're willing to find that high-quality fall food, and which is the opposite of summer food. If you have great corn, for example, standing in November, December, January, it can be king. But that's not a summer food source. Beans can be a great December, January food source, but you have to get those bucks to that point in the first place. I know somebody told me on a comment on YouTube, they said, well, I love hunting those bucks during December over my bean field. Well, you're just on leftovers. What about the patterns in September, October, November, where you actually build a herd, you hunt the rut? I want to have those bucks focused on my land then. During those times, I want to start having them shift onto the property. I talk about that annual fall shift, where they're shifting from their summer grounds to their fall grounds. Again, about a mile and a half, mile, and they're willing to travel a long ways to do so and to find that great food. And again, you know, those summer beans that were a good food source, they dry out in a lot of areas. If there's big ag, they don't hit those beans. If they're staying in December, they might hit them. If it's a really cold winter, they'll hit them hard in December, January. If it's warm, they won't hit them at all. I've seen them rot in the spring on one property where the year before, 50 deer were there all winter long because it was a very cold winter. So it can really drastically change. But typically, that fall food that highly attracts them, brassicas in some areas. Brassicas, rape, turnip, forage, radish, canola some places. That can be an outstanding November, December, January attraction. It is for us in Minnesota and Wisconsin, but it's not there during the summer. So again, if they're there during the summer, they're eating something that's typically not there in the fall. Very hard to have both of those worlds, and at the same time, they need a different cover. Again, they'll travel a long ways to find that good food during the fall. And then, of course, seasonal hunting pressure. It sure seems like you can drive tractors, ATVs, trucks out in the fields during the summertime, and yeah, those bucks will move around here and there, but typically you're not going out in the woods, you're not playing around, you're not going to tree stands. They can take a lot. So what you see during the summertime, you're looking at bucks and does and deer herds that are very withstanding to hunting pressure or human pressure in general. Not so in the fall. You need that high stem count cover for holding cover in the woods. If you have that shaded out area during the summertime, that's exactly where they're not going to be in the fall. And again, if you can see kind of the pattern, summer food, summer cover, completely the opposite of what you need in the fall to hold and attract and build those deer, build a great hunt, build a great herd. And then again, if you have those does during the summertime and you have that summer food, you're building summer fawning grounds. The number one way to reduce deer population, if needed, is to get rid of summer food first. That's even far more important than trigger control, because you don't have to practice trigger control in a lot of situations if you don't have that summer food to begin with. The number one way to raise a deer herd and to increase numbers is do the opposite, would be summer food. If you have summer food, you increase deer numbers. So it's a really consistent pattern that we see everywhere a whitetail roams. But if you have mature bucks during the summertime, recognize the vast majority of the time, unless you have thousands of acres, and even then you're wasting space. I always talk about, there's people out there that have a 900 acre, 1,000 acre parcel, and they turn it into a 100 acre parcel. And what a waste of money. What a waste of resources. Just because they have the food available at the wrong time. They have the cover available at the wrong time. And guess what? If you have good whitetail cover for fall and winter, and you have good whitetail food for fall and winter, you have lots of wildlife species. And it might be, it's all relative. You might be talking 3.5-year-old buck is the best buck in your area. It might be a 5 or 6-year-old buck. It's all relative. It's not about a certain age class. It's just doing your best. If you're doing your best and you want to do your best for this fall, you need to recognize that if you have summer bucks on your land to a very high degree, you can just about always expect them to leave. Maybe they'll come back for a little bit during the rut. Maybe they won't. But you're not going to be able to build a good herd and a good hunt if you focus on the summer. It's time to buck that trend and really focus on the fall for this fall, so you have a great herd and hunt this hunting season. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes so that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.